This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to another edition of the movie review of the day here on the Pop Experience. I am Steve Riddle, back again this week for another go-around, and today, for the second time this week, I will be doing a tribute to a performer that recently passed away. There's the old running, I don't know who exactly had said it, but apparently, I don't know who exactly where this came from, but, it's widely believed that, when it comes to celebrity deaths, they always seem to come in threes, and in the span of like 2 or 3 weeks, we've had 3 major deaths happen in the world of film. We had, of course, Catherine O'Hara, who passed away at the end of January. We then had James Van Der Beek, who had passed away back on February 11th, and now 4 days after that, we had our third major death occur, that being the legendary Robert Duvall, who he passed away on February 15th at the age of 95. Didn't say like what his death was. I'm guessing they haven't released it yet, but I mean, the dude has lived, had a long storied life and a very long storied career, and choosing a film to pay tribute to him was really tough because there have been so many great roles he's had. Of course, as many know, he was Tom Hagen in both The Godfather and Godfather Part 2. He, of course, was Lieutenant Kilgore in Apocalypse Now. He's been in so many films over the years that it was hard to kind of just narrow it down to just one. So I figured for this one, and plus also it's, it was hard because there are so many films in his career that we could probably do at a later date. So I figured let's just go all the way back to the beginning and talk about his very first film that he was in. And that was a classic film that he actually he only is in it for like, I think like 5-10 minutes at the most, but even in his little short stint there, he makes the most of it. And the film I'm talking about is, of course, To Kill a Mockingbird. It was released on December 25th, 1962. $2 million budget to a box office of 13.1. So for 62, that was really good. Starring Gregory Peck, Mary Badham, Philip Alford, John Megna, Frank Overton, Rosemary Murphy, Ruth White, Brock Peters, Estella Evans, and of course the aforementioned Robert Duvall. This, of course, is based off the novel of the same name, which sees lawyer Atticus Finch attempt to defend a black man from who is being tried for assault and rape. He is in doing so, Finch is ostracized by the predominantly white neighborhood he's in. At the same time, his 2 children, Jem and Scout, kind of spend their summer kind of seeing everything while also trying to meet up with the elusive Boo Radley. So, as I usually do with these tributes, I will focus mainly on the artist himself. But like I said, we only see, of course, Duvall, who plays Boo Radley, we only see him in the very, very end. So, like I said, throughout the course of the novel and the film, we see Jem and Scout kind of, trying to, figure out about, they've heard all these stories about Boo, some not so flattering about like, he's never been seen. He's very reclusive. They explain this as well to their friend Dill, who came there for the summer. Then at one point, we find out that Boo has kind of been leaving the kids little trinkets in a tree stump, which the kids kind of interpret as them wanting to communicate with them. But eventually that gets patched up, so they can't do that anymore. And then we kind of transition to, like I said, the main plot where their father Atticus, who's played by Gregory Peck, is called to defend a defend Tom Robinson, a black man who has been accused of assault and raping a young white woman, whose name was Mayella Ewell, the daughter of Bob Ewell, and we see Atticus do his best to try to convince the jury that that all the evidence that's been presented against Tom is not what they think it is. That they say that Ewell was assaulted by someone who's left-handed, and Atticus points out that Tom can't use his left hand. They try to imply that perhaps it was her own father that maybe had assaulted her. But in the end, Tom is unfortunately found guilty. But before he can be transported to prison, he is shot and killed after trying to escape. And like I said, Atticus kind of becomes the, kind of has to deal with the prejudices of his town, and specifically of Ewell. And then, of course, in the climax, it's Ewell ends up attacking Jim and Scout as they're walking home, and the kids end up being saved by a mystery figure, and we end up finding out that figure ends up being Boo Radley, who we finally see him for the first time. Like I said, at the very end, when Jem kind of sees him and realizes who it is. And Duvall doesn't actually say anything in the film. He just kind of, stands stoically and kind of looks on. But you could tell immediately, this was a big deal for him. I mean, this was his first film, and such an iconic character in this novel that, and he just plays it really well. Just again, there's no dialogue. He says, he just looks on, just kind of, you could tell just through his eyes and through his mannerisms, like that's all he really needs to say. And you can see the affection he kind of has for these kids, in a very protective manner. The point that he was willing to, he basically was willing to sacrifice his own life if needed to save them from Ewell. And then, of course, when Atticus and Sheriff Tate kind of talk about it, they kind of realize they don't want to, have Boo go through the rigors of a trial and everything. So they just kind of come to the conclusion that Ewell ended up falling on his own knife to kind of, protect him and protect Jem as well. Because, obviously, since nobody else saw this, it could be implied as well that Jem had killed Ewell. But obviously, even though Jem's, a young kid. So, but again, for the few minutes he's on the screen, Duvall really makes his presence known, and right away you could tell he was going to be something big. And as we would eventually see over the years, he would become something big with some bigger roles. So, but again, to kind of have this be his first one, that is a lot of pressure, and I think he definitely played it to admirable perfection here. And I do also want to give out a big shout out, of course, to the star of the film, Gregory Peck, who plays Atticus again with such determination and such vigor. The courtroom scenes alone, where he's doing his best to defend Tom and to kind of discredit the Ewells, and his impassioned plea to the jury at the end to kind of see past their prejudices and to realize that Tom is an innocent man, and not to let the fact that he's a black man skew their decision, which unfortunately, like I said, it does. And that moment there, when the courtroom clears out, except for for everyone up at the balcony, all the black people up in the balcony, along with Jem, Scout, and Dill, and they stand up as Atticus is leaving, kind of showing him respect. And it's a great scene there. And there was also one prior to the trial where he's kind of standing guard, and a lynch mob comes up to try to take Tom and kill him, but Atticus stands firm, and then the kids come up and stand with them. And of all people, it's Scout who kind of pleads to Mr. Cunningham, and kind of gets through to him to tell him that this is not the right thing to do, and they end up dispersing. So. Again, it's really kind of one of the, because we always talk about, you always hear about like how adaptations of novels don't usually, more often than not, don't kind of hold up to the actual novel itself. But this, I think, is one of those few instances where the novel and the story and the film are really kind of, hand in hand. Very well, very, very well done. And, and again, kind of, I think with such, great performances. I mean, when you look back, Gregory Peck's performance as Atticus is still one of the, considered one of the greatest performances of all time. He was, I know when they did, when AFI did their like top 100 of the different categories, Atticus was actually voted the number one hero, which is, it's kind of crazy to think about. And this was also voted the number one courtroom drama, which, considering there have been a lot of great courtroom films over the years, which I'm sure we'll talk about down the line, that's a pretty big, nod to it. But again, in terms, like I said, of Duvall's performance, he makes the most of the little time he's on, and he definitely, like I said, kind of shows everyone what he's made of and what's to come for him. So, in terms of the grade of the film, I would go. I would go 9 out of 10. It's a really good film. It is a little over 2 hours, and there's, again, it's a lot of talking. It's a lot of just kind of. There's not a lot of I mean, it's not supposed to be. It's a courtroom drama based off a classic novel, and it's one of those things where it did get nominated for Best Picture, which looking back probably shouldn't have won. I mean, considering what else that year. So the year was nominated. The other films nominated that year were Mutiny on the Bounty, The Music Man, The Longest Day, and then the film that won Best Picture, Lawrence of Arabia, which, okay, maybe I can, that's a tough draw, though, but the film did end up, Peck did win Best Actor, which he definitely deserved. I think Mary Badham could have won Best Supporting Actress, but she didn't. That went to Patty Duke for her role as Helen Keller in The Miracle Worker. So again, kind of a tough draw there. But I don't know. Looking back, maybe this could have won Best Picture. But again, hindsight's 20/20 on that. But I do think it is a great film, and it's one I think if you have not watched it in a while, definitely do so. And if you've not read the book in a while, do so as well. I think it is a classic, and it definitely deserves at least to be read once. And I think, again, for Robert Duvall, it was a good first outing for him for what was going to be a very long and storied career. So yeah, rest in peace, Robert Duvall. Your legacy will live on forever. And like I said, we'll touch on a lot more of his films down the line. But I figured for him, it'd be best to honor him by starting with the beginning. So that's going to do it for me. I've really been enjoying doing this. It's been a lot of fun. I know we've got... if you're listening to this on the day it drops, we got 3 theme weeks coming up here, which is pretty insane. So I know, it's funny. I started my Don Bluth journey a couple of weeks ago, but then between the theme weeks and the tributes, that kind of got pushed back a bit. But I promise I am going to get back to that. Probably after we get through these 3 theme weeks, I will get back to doing the Don Bluth films. I know American Tail is coming up next, and I'm looking forward to doing that because this is one of my favorites of all time. So be on the lookout for that, and continue to follow us with everything else we do on this feed and all of our other feeds. I know it is Road to WrestleMania, so I know particularly on North-South Connection, they're going to have a lot of great evergreen content regarding WrestleMania, so be on the lookout for that. And with that, I am Steve Riddle. This has been the movie review of the day here on the Pop Experience, and we'll see you next time.